from the draw valve. Remove the pump drive shaft from the drive hub in the rear wall of the mix hopper. Remove the 2 small O-rings and 1 large O-ring from the pump drive shaft. Remove the front drip tray and the splash shield. Remove the ladles from the 2 cold topping containers. Remove the long drip pan from the front panel and take it to the sink for cleaning. Remove the 2 short drip pans from the rear panel. Remove the 2 notched drip pans from the left and right side panels and take them to the sink for cleaning. Prepare a sink with an approved cleaning solution and thoroughly brush clean all of the disassembled parts and parts trays in the cleaning solution, making sure all lubricant and mix film is removed. Be sure to brush all surfaces and holes, especially the holes in the pump components and the small syrup holes in the shake freezer door. Rinse all the parts with clean, warm water, 1 tray at a time. Sanitize all parts in sanitizing solution for a minimum of 1 minute. Place the disassembled parts on clean, sanitized parts trays. Return to the freezer with a small amount of cleaning solution. Using the black brush, clean the rear shell bearings at the back of the freezing cylinders. Clean the drive hub openings in the rear wall of the mix hoppers. Using the door spout brush, brush clean the syrup line fittings. Wipe all the exterior surfaces of the freezer with a clean towel. Make sure the power switch is in the off position. Failure to follow this instruction may result in severe personal injury from hazardous moving parts. Before installing the shake beater drive shaft, lubricate the groove on the beater drive shaft. Slide the beater drive shaft boot seal over the small end of the beater drive shaft and engage it into the groove on the shaft. Using an approved food-grade lubricant, heavily lubricate the inside portion of the boot seal and the flat end of the boot seal that comes in contact with the rear shell bearing. Do not lubricate the square end. Install the shake beater drive shaft through the rear shell bearing in the freezing cylinder and engage the square end firmly into the drive shaft coupling. Check the scraper blades for any nicks or signs of wear. If any nicks are present, replace the blades. If the blades are in good condition, place each scraper blade over the holding pins on the beater assembly. The holes in the scraper blade must fit over the pins to prevent damage. Holding the blades on the beater assembly, insert the assembly into the freezing cylinder. Engage the shaft end firmly into the drive shaft socket. When properly seated, the beater will not protrude beyond the front of the freezing cylinder. Lubricate the outer diameter of the spinner shaft seal. Insert the spinner shaft seal into the bottom of the draw valve as far as it will go. Lubricate the smaller end of the driven spinner. Squeezing the split end together, insert the driven spinner through the metal opening of the draw valve until it snaps into place. Inspect the draw valve O-rings and replace them if they are cut or nicked. If the draw valve O-rings are in good condition, slide the 2 O-rings into the grooves of the draw valve and then lubricate them thoroughly. Place the freezer door O-ring into the groove on the back of the freezer door. If necessary, put 2 small spots of lubricant at the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock positions on the upper portion of the freezer door O-ring to keep it in place. Lubricate the outside diameter of the front bearing. Slide the front bearing into the door hub. Install the shake freezer door. Position the door onto the 4 studs on the front of the freezing cylinder. Align the top of the draw valve with the actuator bracket and then install the hand screws. Tighten the screws equally in a crisscross pattern until the door is snug. Lubricate the shaft of the spinner blade up to the groove. Insert the spinner blade shaft into the center of the driven spinner and through the draw valve cavity until the shaft appears at the top of the draw valve. Snap the restrictor cap over the end of the door spout and install the syrup valve retainer pins. Freezing cylinder assembly, soft serve side. Make sure the power switch is in the off position. Lubricate the groove on the beater drive shaft. To ensure the mix does not leak out of the back of the freezing cylinder, the middle section of the boot seal must be convex or extend out from the seal. Slide the beater drive shaft boot seal over the small end of the beater drive shaft and engage it into the groove on the shaft. Heavily lubricate the inside portion of the boot seal and the flat end of the boot seal that comes in contact with the rear shell bearing. Apply an even coat of lubricant to the shaft. Do not lubricate the hex end. Insert the beater drive shaft through the rear shell bearing in the freezing cylinder and engage the hex end firmly into the drive coupling. Check the scraper blades for any nicks or signs of wear. If any nicks are present or the blades are worn, replace both blades. Install the scraper blade clips over the scraper blades. Place the rear scraper blade over the rear holding pin on the beater. Holding the rear blade on the beater, slide it into the freezing cylinder halfway. Install the front scraper blade over the front holding pin and then install the beater shoes. Slide the beater assembly the rest of the way into the freezing cylinder. Make sure the assembly is in position over the drive shaft by turning the beater slightly until it is properly seated. When in position, the beater will not protrude beyond the front of the freezing cylinder. Slide the 3 O-rings onto the grooves on the draw valve and lubricate them thoroughly. Lightly lubricate inside the top of the freezer door valve cavity. Insert the draw valve from the top with the draw handle slot facing forward. Place the door gasket into the groove on the back of the freezer door. Slide the front bearing over the baffle rod so the flanged end is against the door. Do not lubricate the gasket or bearing. Insert the baffle rod through the beater in the freezing cylinder. With the doors seated on the freezer studs, install the hand screws. Tighten equally in a crisscross pattern to ensure the door is snug. The draw handle should be adjusted to provide a flow rate of 5 to 7.5 ounces per 10 seconds. To increase the flow rate, turn the adjustment screw clockwise. Turn the adjustment screw counterclockwise to decrease the flow rate. Slide the fork of the draw handle in the slot of the draw valve. Secure the fork with a pivot pin. Slide the long drip pan into the hole in the front panel above the syrup topping dispensers. Slide the 2 shorter drip pans into the holes in the rear panel. Slide the other drip pans into the left and right side panels. Install the front drip tray and the splash shield under the door spouts. Mix pump assembly. Inspect the rubber pump parts. O-rings and gaskets must be in 100% good condition for the pump and the entire machine to operate properly. Slide the red O-ring into the groove of the piston. Do not lubricate the O-ring. Apply a thin layer of lubricant to the inside of the pump cylinder at the retaining pinhole end. Insert the piston into the retaining pinhole end of the pump cylinder. Slide the red O-ring into the grooves of the valve cap. Slide the pump valve gasket into the holes on the cap. Insert the valve cap into the hole in the mix inlet adapter. Insert the mix inlet assembly into the pump cylinder. The adapter must be positioned into the notch located at the end of the pump cylinder. Secure the pump parts in position by sliding the retaining pin through the cross holes located at one end of the pump cylinder. Slide the check ring into the groove of the feed tube. Install 1 red O-ring on each end of the mix feed tube and lubricate it thoroughly. Slide the large black O-ring and the 2 smaller black O-rings into the grooves on the drive shaft. Thoroughly lubricate the O-rings and shaft. Do not lubricate the hex end of the shaft. Install the hex end of the drive shaft into the drive hub at the rear wall of the mix hopper. Sanitizing, shake side. Prepare 2.5 gallons of sanitizing solution. Install the syrup hole plugs in the syrup ports in the freezer door. Pour the sanitizing solution over all the parts in the bottom of the mix hopper and allow it to flow into the freezing cylinder. Install the air mix pump assembly at the rear of the mix hopper. Secure the pump in place by slipping the pump clip over the collar of the pump, making sure the clip fits into the grooves in the collar. Caution! Install the pump end of the mix feed tube and secure it with the cotter pin. Failure to follow this instruction could result in sanitizer spraying on the operator. Using the white hopper brush, clean the mix level sensing probes, the mix hopper, mix inlet hole, the outside of the agitator drive shaft housing, the agitator, the air mix pump, pump clip, mix feed tube, and cotter pin. Pour the 4 gallons of sanitizing solution into the mix hopper to within 1 inch of the top of the hopper. Scrub the exposed sides of the hopper. Allow the solution to remain in the hopper for at least 5 minutes. Place the power switch in the on position and then touch the wash symbol. With a pail beneath the door spout, open and close the draw valve 6 times. Touch the pump symbol to sanitize the inside of the air mix pump and the mix feed tube. Then open the draw valve and draw off all the remaining sanitizing solution. Place the agitator on the agitator drive shaft housing. Remove the cotter pin from the pump. Place the mix feed tube on top of the pump. Place the cotter pin in position in the outlet fitting of the pump. Repeat these procedures for the soft serve side. Remove the restrictor cap and the syrup hole plugs. Return to the freezer with a small amount of sanitizing solution. With a pail below the door spout, dip the door spout brush into the sanitizing solution and clean the syrup ports in the freezer door, the door spout, the bottom of the driven spinner and the spinner blade, and the syrup line fittings. Brush clean each item for a total of 60 seconds. Fill the squeeze bottle with sanitizing solution. With a pail beneath the door, insert the tube end of the squeeze bottle into the syrup port and squeeze the bottle firmly. This action will force solution out of the adjacent port and down around the spinner. This procedure should be performed for at least 10 seconds per port. Install the restrictor cap. Priming, shake side. With a pail beneath the door spout, touch any flavor select symbol to open the draw valve. Pour 2.5 gallons of fresh mix into the mix hopper and allow it to flow into the freezing cylinder. This will force out any remaining sanitizing solution. When full-strength mix is flowing from the door spout, touch any flavor select symbol to close the draw valve. When the mix stops bubbling down into the freezing cylinder, remove the cotter pin from the outer fitting of the mix pump. Insert the outlet end of the mix feed tube into the mix inlet hole in the mix hopper. Place the inlet end of the mix feed tube into the outlet fitting of the mix pump. Secure with the cotter pin. Install the shake cup holder. Select the auto symbol. Fill the hopper with fresh mix and place the mix hopper cover in position. Repeat the priming procedure for the soft serve side. Install the syrup lines. Following the procedures presented in this video will result in many hours of trouble-free operation of your C606 heat treatment combination shake and soft serve freezer and will significantly contribute to a long and useful operational life.